I want to move us into today's main segment, which is going to be the consideration of the second half of the Major Arcana. The Major Arcana are this very enigmatic, very fun, very loaded cards. Really deep suit to start reading the Trump suit. And of course, here on the shuffle, we saved it for last so that we could consider all the pip cards in the Minor Arcana whose symbols and general character of the elements show themselves throughout this set all across the place. So it's really nice to have a foundation and understanding of the Minor Arcana kind of before you're really diving into the Major Arcana. These are often cards that are a little more difficult to interpret in a reading for how loaded their meaning can be. Sometimes they are cards that I end up drawing other cards to continually clarify the message coming from that one to me. And I want to do a brief recap before I pick up at Temperance of the set to this point, which starts with the Fool's Journey all the way at the top at 0. The Fool is sometimes marked the 22nd card in the cycle as well. It's this point right at the beginning and end of the Major Arcana, following the world and preceding the Magician. The whole series of the Major Arcana is often referred to as the Fool's Journey. It's all about this character who started being fresh and new to this world, running through all this experience and growing and changing as a person and into themselves throughout the process. Here's the brief recap. The Fool realizes what they can manipulate in the world in the Magician, and they begin exercising their potential, their ability. They realize those elements of the world outside of their awareness. They become aware of their intuition and how that connects them to these interesting elements of the world that we cannot otherwise directly perceive, and how there is hidden elements and mystery in the world. In the High Priestess, we move into the Empress, where we practice providing for ourselves and others with what we have and what we've gained. We move to the Emperor, where we kind of exert our will and our choice and our influence with the resources that we have and the ability that we have. We face the limitations of how far we can go when we reach the end of our domain in the Hierophant, and we come up against those traditions and societal norms that are already in place, that are just the tune that we have to dance to because that's where everyone is. We experience where in ourselves we choose to diverge from those norms or those standards set in the Hierophant, in the Lovers, and we go off in our new direction. In the Chariot, where we follow through with the different direction we've chosen in the Lovers, and in the now turbulent and against the grain process, violating those norms from the Hierophant, where we realize our strength, the 8th card of the set, understanding and realizing that with perseverance and that the combination of time and effort, we carry through to the end, as we just experienced doing in the Chariot. We really realize the strength that is within us. And at this point, take a very interesting and more introspective turn in the cycle, where now that we have behind us this experience of knowing ourselves and our own power, knowing the norms that are in place and where we diverge from them, and having gone through that process of doing that, we now ask, then who am I? Why am I different? Where am I the same? Why did I do all that? I don't know. I'm asking these questions in the Hermit and arriving at a place where, for more understanding fundamentally what I want and who I am and what I need and what my intentions are, that and really fate and intention are so closely connected. Once we have really defined our intentions in the Hermit and understand ourselves, we are flowing with the universe in a way. We are just really activating that law of attraction in a more powerful and profound way, and arrive at the Wheel of Fortune. Very briefly in our recap here, blitzing right past it into Justice, where now that we have really made the considerations in the Hermit of ourselves and gone in to really consider who am I and how am I different, or how am I the same from those around me? Justice is where we start thinking about it from other people's perspectives and try to put ourselves in their shoes. We're now really weighing every viewpoint we can and that we can consider before making further action moving forward. Now that we have really second-guessed ourselves in the Hermit, we're starting to think, what are the things all that I need to consider when I'm weighing choices and when I'm choosing to do the things I do? And that leads us to the Hanged Man, where we have realized a new and fresh perspective on the world that kind of makes it all seem totally new to us. It's the same world before us turned upside down, considered from these other perspectives, and Justice is now totally new creature to us in the Hanged Man, a new experience, even though it fundamentally hasn't changed. The environment's the same. Moves us to death, which is where we left off last week, where we now, from our fresh perspective, recognize those elements of our life and our world that are old, outdated, and ready to go. Clear away the weeds, clear away and prune off those dead branches and stems, and make way for, death's inevitable march to let new life spring out of the space that we've now made by clearing away the clutter. And with this fresh lease on life following death, we arrive at Temperance, which is where we'll be picking up again today. Temperance is a cool card. It's at this point in the cycle that we kind of take a step almost just to relax. There's a lot of motion in Temperance. There's usually a figure kind of pictured pouring water between two glasses. There's a lot of indications of balance in Temperance. They are usually always featured with 1 foot in water and 1 foot on land. And Temperance is this place where this late in the cycle we're now involved and connected to so much, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and we're kind of carefully maintaining the order that we've already established. Having just gone through death and gone through its very sharp and sometimes sudden and very complete and comprehensive culling of the old elements of our life, or the things that we're pushing out that are outdated, we now come to a careful, patient, calm kind of nurturing this temperance of what's left, of what we still have, that's been in motion this whole time. And so Temperance is this very calm, very patient place. It's where we're settling from the excitement of death. We're coming to more of a resolution here at Temperance and easing into what is now familiar. We're drawing on the familiar elements this late in the cycle that we have and just managing them in this very balanced way, because we've now balanced our mindset from justice at this point in the cycle, and I've got a really careful, clear, and balanced approach to my life in the situation that I'm facing here. On the Fool's journey, the Fool has gained a certain amount of wisdom and understanding of their situation at this point to act as Temperance with what's before them. As we settle in and get very comfortable with all these familiar elements and just doing what is now kind of our routine movement through our lives, we transition into the Devil, which is a very interesting card in tarot. I really enjoy interpreting the Devil. It's often a card that gets a really exciting reaction in a reading because it's a symbol and a character that is so widely recognized. So I do usually take a moment when the Devil comes up in a reading to explain, or sometimes even when death comes up in a reading, to the person I'm giving a reading, explain to them that there is a more specific definition that applies to it here when we're reading it in tarot, and especially when you're reading it from me. This is my definition of the Devil, and of course for all of you readers out there, you will have your own definitions for the cards, and whatever I offer in this stream and whatever you glean reading books, reading online, and from other readers that you're encountering online, all adds to your understanding and the intuitive meaning of these cards for you. So remember to take everything with that grain of salt and make sure that what you're putting into your accepted definition for these cards is resonating with you in a way that feels like that is what that means to me. I like that. And that's going to be sure that you'll be true to yourself when you're really interpreting it in a reading, and it'll speak to you more profoundly that way. It's an elaborate prologue before really giving away the Devil here. I see the Devil more representative of the force of temptation, primarily, in the tarot. The Devil is pictured here with two people that are chained to the Devil's throne, and I want to quickly draw this card from my Robin Wood tarot deck, which is the deck that I learned on, because it has some other details that I've seen appear in other decks as well that illustrate a really fun story that I love telling when defining the Devil. The Devil actually came up in a reading here on the shuffle when I was giving a reading to Rachel. It was the second card we interpreted. So I got to give this little spiel about the devil and tell this story then. I'm going to tell it again here while we're going over the set. I pulled it from my Robin Wood tarot, which is based off of the illustrations in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, and with very subtle deviations, and this card is probably more different than many others. Here, the people are pictured just hauling a chest, and instead of the chains being connected to the people, they're connected to the chest. And I mentioned how the devil kind of works through temptation, because in reality, a lot of what's happening in the devil here at this point in the cycle is we've settled into our routine and we've got an idea of what we like and what's valuable to us. And the devil will get you stuck from moving forward by keeping you attached to things that you've had before, that you've really thought were your objective before. The story that I like telling here is that these two people have just explored a wild dungeon, found the treasure that they left and sought out to get, and now as they're that close to the exit, suddenly chains start appearing over the chest, and every step they take another chain appears, and it becomes harder and harder to move the chest. The idea here is that the people could let go of that chest and walk out if they wanted to, but they want the chest, and they are holding themselves to the chest because they've left on this adventure. We started our journey here thinking there were certain things that were valuable to us, that were the objective, that were the the purpose of this whole thing going out in the first place. And this is the point where we're challenged to recognize that some things we attach ourselves to, and inevitably in this cycle of the Major Arcana have attached ourselves to, ultimately hold us back from being able to move forward. And the devil usually points to deep-rooted understandings of your world and how things operate in this circumstance and scenario that are referring to in your reading, that fundamentally there are ways you've been approaching it that are trapping you. So it's usually a very challenging perspective to have to release when you're facing the devil, is that the devil has planted these ideas so deeply within you that you consider them your own. The devil has made you choose with your own will to submit to the devil's will because they fooled you into aligning yourself to them for whatever convoluted reason that you've built up at this late in the cycle. Life is complicated. Life is very complicated. And as we get later into the cycle of the Major Arcana here, that is referenced, and this is one of these cards that point to life is complicated, and it's very easy to become very attached to things that are fundamentally flawed in terms of what they offer you and completely against your intention and your motive. It's very easy to get stuck that way. It is, and it comes up this late in the cycle when we've come into Temperance and we think the smoke cleared in death. This is the new way. I'm just keeping things balanced. I'm pouring water between my two cups here. I don't know if that pantomime was clear. And I'm moving into the devil where now it's becoming clear. Once death cleared away that which had to go and that which was old and kind of passing through the inevitable, everything has a time and everything passes. Some inevitable passing has happened and we're just managing in Temperance what's left. Now it becomes apparent to us what things we're attached to that just simply aren't going to serve us and are keeping us stuck. It's in this moment where it's possible for that to become clear. The rabble has been cleared in death. What's left? Some good and some whoops. Whoops. Whoops got deviled. But it's a cool card. The Devil's a cool card because it kind of points to you that there's an unexpected way to move forward. It really is one of these cards that begs us to consider our situation with a very open mind, because we're going to be very challenged in the Devil. All of our preconceptions or all the ideas and biases we built in our mind up to this point about our situation are being challenged in the Devil. We're being shown the weaknesses we built into our own character. By aligning ourselves to some things that happen to be in the devil's territory instead of our own. Which brings us to the Tower. This is one of the more powerful cards, I think, on the journey of the Major Arcana. It is usually associated with cataclysm, very dramatic. I enjoy the story that's told in the tower here, because once we've realized the fundamentally flawed ways in which we'd aligned ourselves in the devil, the tower is the moment where, well, there was an error in the foundation at the very base of this tower, way down in here. And once we were challenged by a bolt of lightning, by anything, by something subtle and random, once we were challenged and it made clear that that flaw in the architecture was there, it all came down. The tower is the moment where it's just like my world comes crumbling down. It is all coming apart, unraveling here, because there's something outside of me that's happened that has indicated or challenged those weaknesses I had set up for myself that were indicated in the devil. And now it is all coming down. The jig is up. Reality's here. And you made a mistake early on building the base of this tower. And now it is all coming down because a bolt of lightning challenged you, and your tower wasn't ready for it, man. It just wasn't. It's all coming down now. I really, actually, there are many readers that are wary of this card or intimidated or scared by this card, and I don't blame them. It can be scary and very dramatic. I actually like the tower. Somewhat unpopular opinion, but knowing that Wilder's and watching, maybe not unpopular here, I admire that we share a love of this card. The tower also brings with it this refreshing, enlightening moment, because once it's all come down, it's so clear. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was laying those bricks in that way at the bottom. It's very clear at this point how things went wrong. So there is a certain amount of enlightenment that comes out of the tower once you're standing in the rubble of the tower. It's this, well, that was a mess. Now I know what I need to do different, for sure. That was very clearly and dramatically indicated to me in the tower. Wow. And I've always enjoyed this aspect of the tower, that it always comes with a very, very sobering, enlightening moment. It's really, there's some powerful growth to come from out of the tower, and there is a certain amount of me that has invited its cataclysm before, because I'm just like, yeah, put me on the fast track, just hit me with it, slam me in the face with exactly all that I have totally misconstrued about my life. Hit me with it. I am ready to go down, tumble, brush off my knees, and be like, wow, that was a tough lesson, because I love learning lessons. That's why I'm practicing tarot and constantly asking questions. Love it. So, the tower, a welcome challenge in my book. Once we're standing in the rubble of the tower, we're finding ourselves at the star. And there's a lot about the star that I'd like to say. Following from the rubble that you're standing in the tower, there's this clarity now. And there's definitely a lot of clarity coming through in this moment here at the star. This clarity now about what you need to change. About yourself, about how you've been handling the situation this reading's revolving to, what the reading is pointing to. You now know a lot of what you need to change. That will involve some letting go, some orienting yourself to new ways. And the star really is an orient. It is the orient, the light, the star in the sky that you can see and move towards. It offers direction. The star is this place where I have now got a clear idea, standing in the rubble, which way I need to go. I'm like, well, that was cleared up for me real fast. That way, towards the star. Pictured is usually somebody that's pouring out two vessels, one into water, one into land, resembling again this balance, but this time with a pouring out, a letting go of those things that we know aren't serving us. But it's a very informed and a very balanced letting go. This is like, I know exactly what I'm pouring out and how I'm pouring it out, and it's Major Arcana, so it's large and comprehensive. It's a big issue. It involves things on land and sea, all over different areas of my life. I am fundamentally changing and orienting to a new direction with the star. There's a lot of hope in this moment, in the star. It's a very inspired moment, seeing that standing in the rubble of the tower, that's what I can do. I can strive to that height. I can reach that star. I just need to let go of these things that I now know were more devil's tricks and tower's flaws than my true way, and find my true way now that I've let those go and a new path has made itself clear to me in the rubble of the tower. It's very clear to me now. I'm going this way. Which moves us to the moon. The moon is a interesting stop on the cycle, because once it's become clear to us what's not serving us in this by the tower, and we're starting to move that direction in the star, the moon is where we are challenged by the elements of our environment and the world around us that are kind of stuck in their ways, kind of stuck in the way that we built and established them. I'd like to go over the symbols in this card. It tells a good story. There is a crawfish at the bottom, right here in this pool of water. The crawfish is usually considered the protagonist of the story here in the moon. It's this little dude here in a pool of water that has, at this point, become uninhabitable to them. This water resembles all the things that you've recognized you need to let go of, kind of, that you need to move on from. It's too acidic, or it's too hot. There's something wrong that you have recognized. This is untenable. This is not my way. I'm moving to something new in the star. Now that I'm starting to make those steps, I'm coming across the first challenges that are holding me here. There are dogs just outside of the pond that are barking and howling, or wolves sometimes, saying, no, why would you change? Why would you change what you've already been doing? Why would you stop? And there are pillars, obelisks in the horizon that limit further the directions that you can go, representing more of just the static existing barriers that are in our lives that make it hard. I like to use the analogy of a breakup from an abusive relationship for this card. Weird turn, I know. Bear with me. The crawfish in a pond in a relationship that they've recognized is abusive, maybe like emotionally abusive. If it was subtle, it snuck up on them, and now they're here at this sober moment of realizing, I need to get out of this. There are their friends who don't understand or see the situation the same way they do, that are like, I thought you and that dude doing great and are fine. Why are you trying to ruin your relationship? What are you trying to do? Or it's the abuser in the relationship who's gaslighting this person and keeping them in the relationship. These are the howling dogs, these voices that tell us to stay in our pool. Just why disturb the status quo? And maybe I'm living with this person that I'm in this abusive relationship with, and these towers resemble kind of the literal challenge of having to like move all of my stuff out and find a new living situation. Like, these are all very serious challenges I'm going to have to overcome in my journey here, leaving the pool in the moon, really following through with the clarity I realized in the star. It's a challenging card for sure, but there's a certain amount of empowerment at this point in the cycle where you really have this fundamental understanding of that's the way I gotta go, and your conviction and the clarity of your understanding is so strong that the howling dogs and the obelisks and all of this glances off of you. You have at this point the understanding and the fortitude to say, it's my way, and I know it's my way because I know me and my needs. I just do. And I'm not going to compromise anymore, you know? There's a lot about the moon that is very empowered. Even though you're in a challenged circumstance and you're struggling with an environment that does not feed you and is like acidic and detrimental just to be in, you're now making moves even against any outside naysayer and barrier. You're now making moves to get out of the pool and really bring yourself to a higher place. This wholeness and true conviction of yourself and understanding of your character comes through full force in the sun. Once we have made that journey in the moon and gotten out of the pool, there is now nothing holding us back. Our true whole self that we have learned and realized and understood this late in the cycle, we understand our potency and our power. We understand how we offer it to other people. We understand how it fits in the scope of the larger world and society and people I haven't met as a whole. We've understood how it works for us and how it works for other people, and even understood how there were parts of it that I misunderstood along the way. And I've had those misunderstandings cleared up at this point for myself. And I'm now coming to a deeper and truer understanding of myself than I have ever reached previous in the cycle at this point. The sun is a very warm, glowing, happy moment of realization. I love that there is a baby usually pictured on the horse here. It's always signaled to me this return to our true inner youngest, baby self. We are just really ourselves, and it's a jolly and jovial feeling. It is a bright and warm and happy feeling when we are just resonating as ourselves so strongly. The sun moves into Judgment. This is an interesting... We're coming up on the finale here in the cycle. At this point in the cycle, having established who we really are and what we really want to do, it's now time to put it all to the test in Judgment. Judgment is where we face again the kinds of challenges that came to us in the tower, or earlier in the cycle. We face again all that we've been trying to achieve this whole time and all that we want to be, who we want to be. We face that all again now as our fully realized and empowered self. Judgment is this moment where it's like everything that you have done preparing for this moment up to this moment, it's time for Judgment Day. It's time to perform. It's time to do it. And so Judgment's this really heavy loaded card that refers to a lot of previous happenings. We're late in the cycle. I am the 20th card in the Major Arcana at this point. There's a lot that has led up to this. This is the climactic conclusion of every detail that we have experienced on the entire set before this point. This is the moment where we rise and say, this is who I am, this is what I'll achieve, time to do it. And there's a kind of sink or swim element to Judgment, where it's like there is no more questioning, what do I do, how do I do it? We've gotten way past that at this point in the cycle. We know what to do and how to do it. We just gotta do it. So the Judgment's this moment where it really all comes together and you have to do it. And if you don't want to advance past Judgment, you can just sit here and maybe the opportunity will pass and you'll be, kind of running another cycle on your way up to Judgment, or maybe you'll just kind of stall out here and be at the precipice about to take that leap, and take some time before you do. But ultimately there's this movement through really finishing what it is you have set out to make yourself into in the cycle here. Judgment resolves cleanly into the world, which is the 21st card in the cycle, and remembering that it is not necessarily our last card in the cycle, that right usually goes to the Fool, who was the 0 or sometimes 22nd in some decks, or sometimes both, card of the set. And I'll get to the world's transition to the Fool in a moment. But the world is this cool moment where everything has come together. Now that you've kind of faced this ultimate, I'm trying to put together who I am and realize what I want to do in Judgment, the world is where it is all coming together. This is the moment that everything clicks. Actually, there was a definition offered to this card by Wilder that I wanted to share because I saw it and I was like, I vibe on that so much. So much. I loved it. So I wanted to make sure that I pulled it up here while we were looking at the card and the set. Wilder's Instagram is called The Sharpest Teeth. And if you're not following them, you should, because if you're interested in what I'm doing, you're definitely interested in what they're doing. They have a YouTube channel also, same name. Do yourself a favor, look them up. I'm going to read their definition of the world because it's spot on to me. The world is the card full of completion and success. It is a time to celebrate and look back on all that you have learned on your journey. Truly appreciate the fruits of your labor and take inventory of everything you have now, physical and metaphysical, before starting on your next adventure. Everything you were working toward and manifesting in the last season will come to a head. This time, it will all click. And I think that everything clicking was sitting in my head after reading that, and it just came to me again when I was trying to sum up the world. It really is that moment that it all clicks. It's just everything has fallen into place. You've worked so hard to get to this point in the cycle, really orienting your inner self to your outer self and to how you're building the world around you. This is the moment that it has all been realized, in and out of you, all been realized. You've built this moment. And it is a moment, as Wilder points out, to reflect on everything that contributed to this moment, because there's so much time and so many events and so much experience preceding this moment that is a part of this moment, that adds to the richness and the fullness and the depth of this moment in the world. It's a very, very exciting place. It is the wholeness that you feel in the sun is carrying straight on through to this moment for sure. So I feel a lot of that same warmth and satisfaction in the world as I do from the sun. What a magical place. This is just, the world is the pinnacle of it. I want to talk about, it's even hinted to in Wilder's definition of the card. Before you start your next journey, reflect. Starting your next journey is interesting because at this point, once you have come to the closing of a cycle and there's a certain sector and element of your life that you've gone all the way around with, understanding a lot of yourself through the experience and a lot about others, and manifesting a lot of that and changing the world around you through that understanding, it leaves you in the what now state. And the interesting thing is you don't necessarily have an answer to that. There's a certain amount you understand about the world up until now. You've come to there. But going forward, it's this question of how does this change over time? And the nature of the world is that we've arrived at this place where everything preceding it has come to a clean resolution and clear place and arrival. But there's not necessarily clarity about what happens next to the world. Where is it going? What do we do now that you've got this built up? So there is a certain amount built up as we start another cycle here, moving into the full. But there's always this question of what's next. And ultimately what follows our realization and our closing up of this certain amount of experience we've gained in the world is that there's always going to be more about our lives and more about the time and experience that we get that we've never experienced before that will be new. And that comes back to us again in the Fool, where now that we have wrapped open shut everything with the world, there is nothing left to move into except those things that are unknown. We've known and understood everything up to this point in the world. You know, we even cleared up the surprises that were thrown to us by the devil in the tower. We cleared it all up and we got through it. So what's forward from here has got to be new. We wrapped everything else up in the world. And that's how the cycle of the Major Arcana loops itself around.